and welcome to a brand new episode of Grab a Seat podcast. I'm Ankit Vengurlekar tuning in from Bengaluru, and what a phenomenal podcast episode this is going to be because it's on the one secret sauce that makes Grab the absolutely epic company that is, and that is the magic word culture. And we've got two incredible speakers to decode Grab's culture. Hi, Chin Yin, and hi, Sean. Good morning.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning.
Lovely to have you folks over here. Now, quick introductions, but they're going to dive deeper into what they actually do because everybody is a superhero here at Grab, and titles are only a starting point of what they do. Chin Yin is the Chief People Officer of Grab. Oh my God, what a phenomenal role. And Sean is the Group Head of Mobility and Delivery Businesses at Grab. So first, let's hear it from Sean. What is it that your title states, and what is it that you do apart from your title, Sean? And then we'll hear it from Chin Yin.
So, I do mobility and deliveries. I think, it's a very well selected title. But, I think one thing that I really love about the role is I get to work with grabbers from across Grab, like from product and engineering, design, grabbers from the business operations, from commercial. So, I see my role as helping to bring all of the best of Grab together to solve our problems in mobility and deliveries.
Simply the best, bringing the best together. Let's hear it from Chin Yin. Chin Yin.
Hi. So, as the Chief People Officer, obviously, I run what is people operations and people sometimes known that as HR. But on top of that, I also cover internal IT as well as corporate real estate and corporate security. So the job really is to try to weave, physical, in terms of spaces, as well as the human, as well as the digital experiences of our grabbers. So that's what my team and I try to do every single day.
Phenomenal. Also, I'm a big fan of the jacket you're wearing. Very good sartorial choice, Chin Yin.
Thank you.
All right, Sean, you've been with Grab for almost 8 years now, a couple of years short of a decade. Talk to us about how did you get here? Press rewind and take us through the time machine and talk to us about what is it that has led you to this current role as the group head of mobility and delivery businesses.
Yeah, so, I really started as a law major. I never practiced. People probably be surprised to hear that's what I used to do. And I started my career in banking, investment banking specifically. So everything around mergers and acquisitions, rights issues. And then I went into consulting, where I was doing strategy for a whole bunch of different industries. Now, if you look at everything that I've done, I think what you can really take away is this is somebody who's pretty clueless. I want to experience lots of different things. I don't really know like exactly what it is that calls out to me. And then I think one day I just said, hey, I want to do something that has a bit more of like a real kind of, it sounds a bit cliche, but a bit more of a real impact, something that I can see, and not just PowerPoint slides. And then I landed at Grab. And the pace at which we were making change was remarkable. I wasn't here for the amazing pantry and the really cool office because you should see the original office that we started in, and I joined anyway. So I think that's kind of the path that led me to where I am. And today, when I think about the kind of things I'm doing, honestly, I'm not looking for more variety anymore. More variety than I can ever have bargained for.
That's incredible. I love it. I noted this word that you said, which is you felt like you were being clueless and you didn't know what you wanted. But the way I look at it is it takes somebody open to new ideas and new challenges and new frontiers to try new things. If people are just so closed and only do what they've done or versions of what they've done, they're never going to get new experiences. So kudos to you, Sean, for being open to new challenges and careful what you wish for, because you just said you don't really want a lot more variety, but hello, last I checked, you work at Grab. Variety is the name of the game over here, right? Awesome.
Yeah,
Let's hear
never
it
a
from
dull day.
Never a dull day and no 2 days alike. Absolutely. Chin Yin, as the head of the chief people officer, my God, that is a phenomenal summit you're sitting on, so to say. Um, would not have been easy at all, would not have been predictable. Would love to hear your journey.
It's a crazy role. I've always encouraged, more and more leaders think of this as a next option, Sean. Like this could be the next role for you. But I was really as equally clueless as Sean when I graduated. So studied psychology and philosophy. Did better in philosophy, but I didn't think I could monetize a philosophy degree. So I went into
What's
finding
your
out.
favorite philosopher?
Kierkegaard, quite interesting guy. Yeah,
Interesting.
very, very interesting guy. But anyway, we can have another podcast about that. So I started as a researcher in a headhunting firm because I didn't know what jobs were like. Unlike these days, there were not that many internships that you can, get yourself into. So I started figuring out what jobs are like in banks. Banks were my clients. I also have FMCG as my client, but that was a really good start to figuring out. I therefore then went into HR because PepsiCo, the restaurant part of PepsiCo had an opening, like a management trainee type of role. So I rotated around and, I started with the training function, and then I went into, HR ops and stuff like that. I pretty liked it. Then, and I'm going to age myself by saying this, that was the start of the dot-com boom. And somebody said, hey, you can do sales and marketing. You like to speak to people, you can sell your ideas. I said, okay, let's try. So that's where my sales and marketing gig went into. Not a very long time, because at the end of it, I go, is this what I like waking up doing every day? Or do I miss the whole people aspect of it? Which I really did. And that's how I went back into HR. And I would say a sort of defining moment in my HR career will be the time spent in China. I spent 2 years working in the early 2000s, in China, and just having experienced the whole energy of the place, how everybody is just there to get better, do better, study, at night. Every single person was attending a night course or other. And
Wow.
the energy really, really helped me to understand how you can enjoy your work so much and how you want to strive to be better. That pushes, people to to work really hard. So that was a really, really interesting experience. And about 8, 9 years ago, I got a call from a headhunter and saying that this startup is trying to look for somebody to lead the people function. I go like, what startup is that? And then they said, it was Grab Taxi. It's known as Grab Taxi. Then I was like, I not heard of it. I've not used the app. But okay, let's speak to the people. And long and short of it, 9 years later, I'm here. I'm still here.
Outstanding. Love it. Absolutely love the journey. I also would love to hear from you because 9 years, close to a decade again with you, and you've been absolutely instrumental among so many other leaders in shaping the culture at Grab. And I'm sure it's not one staccato thing, and it's constantly evolved and it's dynamic. It's almost like a living, breathing organism. So, what's the culture at Grab like now? What has it been? What's it now? What kind of shift do you see?
I'm lucky in that sense that I think I have a whole tribe working on shaping the culture together with me, starting with obviously the pioneers in the organization, of which quite a few of them are still here. And
Wow.
they are absolutely passionate about what this company started and why is it for, being very purpose driven, and about a lot about serving the community and serving people that we are in touch with. So, and then obviously there's my team, right, who creates all the different options and the evolutions of culture that we've seen. So, what have we gone through in the last 8, 9 years? When I first stepped in, we were just in the cusp of moving into what was known as the 7 principles. And prior to that, I think there were very simple, entrepreneurial principles that we lived on, like, do things passionately. But this 7 principles was, I think, the first time we made a mark of what is the difference of in culture when you come and work at Grab. There were things like, your problem is my problem. We don't just call it teamwork. We call it like, your problem is my problem. And how are we going to solve the problem together? And then we have wonderful principles like Grab Friends Forever. And that, we believe in Grab before team, before self. The idea of, the holistic part being more important than individual was very, very much ingrained. Then we move into understanding what kind of leadership culture. As we grew bigger, I think leaders play a more and more important role. And we ask ourselves, what were some of the leadership traits that make leaders really successful? We did a lot of focus groups, interviews with Grabbers, asking them two questions. What traits were important to making a leader successful at Grab? And then what traits made leaders unsuccessful at Grab? And through like hundreds of responses, we filtrated that the 4 things that were most important was the 4 H's: honor, hunger, humility, and heart. We started the 4 H's actually as a leadership culture and
I would love
principles.
for you to repeat that, Chin Yin, because these are very deep and profound 4 H's, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Honor, hunger, humility, and heart.
Wow.
Superbly important. And that it resonated so much to Grab and Grabbers that we really expanded this to just not leadership. Not only leaders need to have these kind of principles, but every Grabber actually needs to live up to them as well. So that became our journey of the 4 H's. Through that, actually, there's continuous evolution. For example, we got feedback that 4 H's really describes us very, very well, but sometimes it's not very actionable, right? To have more honor, to have more heart. How do we translate that into everyday lives and everyday behavior? That's where things were. Our 10 principles in action was born. So we sort of unpack what the 4 H's mean a little bit more. For example, hunger means kaizening all the way, right? Being on the ground truths, for example, making sure that we are serving the consumers in the way that they want to serve. So we unpack that into 10 principles in action.
That's beautiful. I could keep on listening to you talk about this, but I also want to quickly shift gears to Sean and decode from him that, Sean, as a group head of mobility delivery, how do you see culture specifically impacting your part of the business?
I think those who've worked with me for a while now probably know how important culture is to me. But it's a really good question, right? Why is it so important? You know people who say like ultimately it's the execution that wins. People who place more emphasis on other things. And if you bring like you bring a knife to a fight, when someone brings a bazooka, you lose, right? So people think very short term sometimes. But if you really unpack everything and look at the heart of what we're doing, we're a technology company, but who builds that technology? Who innovates? It's the people, right? And these things, maybe they sound kind of like obvious, and we say, hey, we're gonna have a great culture and attract the best people. Let's write a list of things, But if you listen to what Chin Yin was saying, it wasn't just this list that we put out. We're actually trying to inculcate that behavior and get people to live it every day. And if you think about companies that all the other tech companies, all the other companies out there, nobody's gonna say our mission is to dishonorably and arrogantly make lots of money from our customers, right? Everybody has some statement. I think how it impacts the business is when you start living out that culture. You start living it and you start attracting the best people. Or maybe not always the best, but people who kind of, have the skill set to be the best. And that
And the
culture
best
brings out the
intentions.
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I think about myself, I maybe it's a bit of a selfish thing for me actually, because I don't want to spend most of my life in a place where I'm not engaged. I'm not doing meaningful work. We're not building meaningful friendships. We're not respected. And actually, in my bid to try and build a better culture for my team, actually is selfish. Like I want to have a place where I'm happy to be, and I truly believe that if I'm happy to be here and I can fully live it, that people around it is contagious. People around you will see it and feel it. Those people start to attract other people who are like-minded. If you think about if I reflect on my own journey, when I came in, I met a bunch of grabbers who've been here for a long time, well before me. One of them was Chin Yin, and Grab is just a bunch of headlines, on the newspaper. You don't really know what this company is. Ultimately, who gives you a sneak peek into what this company is the people you meet. The impression that I took away, honestly, when I joined, I said, okay, I'll give this 3 years. But I think within 3 months, I say, scrap that, let's see where this takes us, right? Because these are people I really want to show up for every day.
That
I
is
think
so
that
beautiful.
this is really one of the secret sauces of Grab. One thing, it's how people show up every day. Really, really, is very important, not just internally but externally as well. We actually have partners, right, who come for meetings with separate teams from Grab, and they will tell us to say, I don't know why you guys really like talk the same talk. We're not just using the same vocab or anything like that. It's the spirit of how we conduct business. It's the spirit of how we interact with our partners in an honorable way as well. And that was like just the best kudos. The other thing people actually say is that you guys, you live humility, like you're just so keen to learn. Whilst people could say that we've grown quite a bit the last few years, but we still stay very, very scrappy. We still say that there's a lot to improve on. We need to like learn to do better. We need to get more feedback from our consumers, our partners, and that's what we do every single day. So I think it's about continuously evolving what your principles might be, but also embedding it every single day on the ground.
Beautiful. Love that. Again, while you were saying, Sean, that you feel that you're being selfish because you want to be a part of this incredible group of people, I would actually flip that script and I would call it extremely self-aware. Because to know that there's a great opportunity at hand, to know that you're surrounded by incredibly bright minds, and then to know that you want to show up here and ignite that in other people takes incredible self-awareness. So kudos to you. It also reminds me of this amazing African phrase or word called ubuntu,
Mhm.
which is literally what people functions and organizations all about. Ubuntu literally means, not to be confused with the open source operating system for computers, but Ubuntu literally means I am because we all are.
Mhm.
So the independent individual unit succeeds, thrives only when everybody else thrives. And we're seeing a clear example of that in our conversation with both of you leaders. Chinyan, help me understand over the last 8-9 years, I'm sure it would be impossible to pick out your absolute favorites or the most impactful ones. But maybe, jog your memory a little bit and talk to me about some of the incredible milestones or incredible hurdles that you and your team championed and crossed, came out triumphant on the other side and felt like, wow, we did that. Nice. What are some of the key milestones? First, Chinyan from you, and then Sean.
I think for me, a personal milestone first. When I first joined, I felt very intimidated, to be honest, because you look to the left and then everybody's from some Ivy League or other, which I'm not. You look to the right And in a very Singaporean way, everybody's a scholar or other, and then like I'm not, right? Or and then you look, across and you go like, okay, everybody is like a top 3 consulting firm consultant, and I'm not really. And the milestone there was like, I feel that some of us can feel very insecure, and insecurity actually breeds a lot of unhealthy behaviors, right? And my first milestone was to overcome all the insecurity and to know that if in the new world, mindset is everything. Much as skills are important, much as capabilities are crucial, right, to being able to do a job well. How you look at life, how you manage yourself, the voices that are in your head, is something to overcome. And once you've overcome that, then you can be really rooted in others. Leadership is not about ourselves. Leadership is about rooted in othersness. But you must first get your mindset and your frame of mind correct, overcome insecurities, then you can root on others, and then you can be a better and better leader. I think that's one huge thing. The second milestone, and I'll stop at 2, because like you said, there are too many like crazy battles and crazy milestones we have to overcome.
No, but
Was
if you don't mind, Chin Yin, if you don't
Yes.
mind, sorry to interrupt you. It's easier said than done, right? That 8, 9 year ago, Chin Yin sitting there surrounded by these incredibly qualified, experienced people. What was that, if you don't mind, what was that self talk or what was that process of getting Chin Yin out of her own head, out of her own insecurities, and reinforcing and reassuring herself that, hey, look where you are. You're here. You belong. You're enough.
I think it's about switching from the mindset that I'm here to prove myself, because again, that's very self-focused, to say that, look, I'm here to learn and I'm here to serve, right? And my having worked for 15 years, that must mean something. And I do believe that they hired me because they saw something that I could contribute. And so to focus on serving others. And the point is that, how am I going to help you solve your problem? It's your mind space is filled with those, yes, those things that you can do for other people. And then you go, okay, so what are the best ways to help other people? What's the best way to get this across the bridge? Or how is it best, what's the best way to bridge between two parties that are not working so well to each other? When you focus that in terms of, hey, there is a value, my value is to serve, my value is not to prove that I'm smarter than anybody else in this room, or to overcome my insecurity. I think then when your mind space is then filled with the right questions and the right problems to solve, I think the magic
Beautiful.
snaps.
All I can
Beautiful.
say is like, sometimes I think that it's the best people who doubt themselves in that way, because you just expect so much from yourself. Everybody's looking to you for that guidance. I look to Chin Yin all the time for guidance. And so, to be in that position where people are looking to you, seeking your guidance, I think, I can imagine the pressure is really high. And I think it's because you have such high expectations, you want to actually serve others, that you start to doubt if you're good enough. I can imagine that.
Yeah. You wanted me
You,
to talk about the second
yes. Yes,
craziness
please,
thing?
please continue.
Okay.
Yes, the second bit.
I think for a company who is pretty young, we're 10 years old, we have actually changed our performance system quite a few times, in a much more rapid fashion than most companies, right? When I first came in, there was no performance system. There was a crazy bonus scheme, which I will not go too deeply into. And I go like, that's really not the way. But the problem we're trying to solve is not about a rating. The problem we're trying to solve is that different people have different ideas of what standard looks like, what great looks like, what good looks like, what exceptional looks like. And that causes a lot of pain, a lot of misunderstanding between managers and employees, as well as between teams, for example. So the idea of having a performance system was not there to say, I need to give everybody a rating. I think it's about leadership having those platforms and ways to have a conversation about what are we expecting and what does great look like? And do we have all the same idea of what great looks like, for example, right? We tested various different permutations of, having a five rating scale versus a 7. And about 2 years ago, we decided it's time to take away the rating scale, right? Because we saw the cobra effects of having a rating scale for a long time. Firstly, people tend to focus very much on what have happened before, because they're trying to justify, oh no, I shouldn't deserve this rating scale because I did this and that. A lot of the conversations were backward focused, right? Two, people were giving each other feedback to justify ratings more than to help people develop in the future. So if you think about it, when we read through a lot of feedback that grabbers were giving each other, it was so much I think you're meets expectations because you did this, but you didn't do this well enough. And it stops there. It doesn't talk to people about, say, how might you be able to develop? Where are your strengths, which I appreciate? Where are things that I would love for you to develop, right? So once we took away the ratings, and again, no perfect system, it really helped open up the conversation about where do I see your potential and where can I see you growing into? And I think that was really one bold move for a company that is this young. We put in ratings, we took away ratings within like all of 7 years.
That requires a huge round of applause. I'm sure the editors can put in digital applause onto this. But that is pretty bold, radical, phenomenal. But wouldn't expect anything else apart from that from Grab, right? Sean, I want to know from you, because a lot of this culture, it's great internally, but also in one of the points that I think Chin Yin mentioned, that, external stakeholders and partners, they were coming and they were talking and they were just like, wait, all of you are speaking in a similar manner, which is the same humility, which is the same ethos and enthusiasm. So, talking about actual customer experience or customer satisfaction, how has the internal culture at Grab and of Grabbers helped influence how the company approaches customer satisfaction, customer experience, especially in mobility and delivery? And then, of course, I'll come to the HR lens of it. But Sean, would love to hear from you on this.
Yeah, for me, one kind of very defining part of my journey, which I think kind of translates to how we do our products, how we run our businesses, when you kind of that moment when you connect the concept that is very well understood, which is we create income, we create livelihoods, something our left brain understands, very logical. When you kind of connect that to one of our principles, which is heart, um, it's something that when it clicks, it doesn't unclick. You once you get it, right. And for me, it took a little while. I always felt strongly about the livelihoods aspect, but when I see, I used to meet drivers at the end of the day, and honestly, sometimes you get so many problems thrown at you that you just start to see them as like a to-do list, right? You start knocking it off your list. But eventually, when you start talking to drivers, you realize that after all the complaints, it comes back down to, but we appreciate you. I don't know if everyone's so lucky to have heard that, not in those words, but at the end of a really tiring day meeting drivers, you hear, hey, keep it up. We still appreciate what you do. To me, that kind of really pushes you to think about what ultimately matters, because you hear so much feedback. Ultimately, what truly matters to our drivers, and hopefully, and I don't think we're the best at doing this, but hopefully you see it come up, you see it show up in the product. When we think about things like choice, We know our drivers want control. Because why do you want to sign up for this opportunity where you can hit a button and start earning? It is about flexibility and control. But I think at some point we kind of forgot that, and when it hit us, we realized, we started to say, hey, how can we give our drivers fair choice, not cherry picking bad disruptive behavior. I shared a little bit of the things that hurt the network, but fair choice. Like, I'm on my way home now to pick up my kids. I want a job that brings me in that direction. Fair enough. So I think that's how we really started to bring these insights into our product, really, by thinking about what are we even here for, is to empower these drivers in their livelihoods.
Beautiful, beautiful. Starting with heart and then also employing the other H, which is humility. That, hey, only because we are the smartest folks in the room, we don't have all the answers, but the answers or suggestions are really coming from the end users and stakeholders. That's phenomenal. In HR, how do you see, your values translating into better or enhancing customer experience, stakeholder management, Chin Yin?
So it's very interesting that is actually a parallel to what Sean is describing, as well as how it works within the company, right? Externally, our partners could sometimes take the view that all we are trying to do is extract the most value for the company, right, from them. And I've heard a very sad description of what HR is. HR will only protect the company, right? HR is only acting for the company. I think what we're hoping to make sure that we do is to say that, look, one, we use the 4H in a symbiotic manner. As much as there needs to be heart on how we manage our teams, our employees, there should be also heart back, from the employees to the company. It's two ways. It's honor both ways. It's hunger both ways. It's humility both ways, right? So I think that's how we want to bring the relationship up, and to be able to put this in the everyday lives of our people, to say, hey, we are trying to think win-win-win, for our employees, for the company, also for our shareholders, to make sure whatever we come up with actually, serves all three parties, not just one.
That's amazing. Thank you for elaborating on that. My next question is actually an interesting one. There's so much that's happening in the world of consumer technology, B2B technology, within ride apps itself. Oftentimes, one tends to forget that Grab is primarily a tech company. The fulfillment happens in so many different aspects and sectors, but at heart, it's a tech company. Does it happen oftentimes, Chin Yin, that the tech of the day, the tech du jour, in a way challenges or even channelizes the culture at Grab inside the company? I'm talking about external environmental developments and factors and new waves and new technologies. Does that challenge and test and sometimes help, course correct or pivot or evolve the culture itself at Grab? I'm sure you've seen that happen, right?
We've seen that happen, and that's just it. I mean, the evolution in tech doesn't only touch Grab, right? I think it touches every single company in the world. And how do we interpret that, and how do we look at then what is appropriate for the company to evolve? One thing we've come up with is that a statement that every grabber should be a technologist. Now, before you start thinking that, oh, we are going to make sure that everybody learns how to code, which actually is not the point, it's that the whole idea of technology, firstly, is about, yes, how you think about solving problems. How do you look at first principles way of making decisions? So we are trying to make sure that such skills are actually more embedded within all our grabbers and not just, our tech teams. I think that's number one. Number two is about obviously using new tech that's coming. firstly, just ChatGPT, how people use it. It was interesting because when we first launched Grab GPT, which is our own version, right, a gated version of GPT, we actually didn't see a lot of usage of it, even though we did tell people please try it. And there is always an embedded fear of new things, and we know that. And so we actually, make sure that we had training that was available. And I was so heartened to see that close to 1,500 grabbers log on to that one session that we had um, on just how to use Grab GPT to improve your productivity and improve your lives as well, right? In that sense, so I think learning how to use the technology, I think, is one thing. And lastly, around tooling, putting my IT hat on, the team continuously look for what are the right tools to introduce to our grabbers so that they reap the benefits, right, of the evolution of the technology. So we've introduced quite a few new tools to grabbers. They've loved it so much because it does make their life easier. And that's what we will continue to do.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sean, I want to come to you as yes,
Maybe I can share like a short example of how
yes,
like
please
culture
do.
kind of drives our people to adopt technology to solve the real problems. So one of the things that really hit me a few years ago was we we had this news report come out about a driver who got murdered, and it was in Malaysia. Driver got murdered at night. And this was one of those moments that hit us really hard. Like as an organization, it was all good when we're talking about growth and income, and then suddenly this happens. And I remember one of the town halls. I mean, back when I used to be a country head of Malaysia, one of the town halls, there was a question that said, "What is leadership doing about this?" And I go, "Wow, our people care that much." um, and it read something. I still remember it almost word for word. It read almost something like, a young man just died. Why are we doing nothing about it? And it hit me so hard because I felt like, wow, we're so powerless. We can't we can't do anything here, right? If somebody wants to rob one of our drivers and it goes wrong, what can we do?
Mm.
And we kind of took that upon ourselves as a challenge. We said, look, we don't know if we'll solve it, but we have to at least try. If you think about the solution that the team came up with, it was really remarkable. So we said, okay, why are these bad actors on the platform? Because we can't filter them out. One of the suggestions was, can we ID every single passenger? Imagine millions and millions of people, tourists coming in. We're going to ID them one by one, get them to walk into our driver center, show us their passport. It's just physically impossible, right? And we said, okay, does that mean it's really, really unsolvable? You can ask anyone for an ID, but you can't verify it. I can ask you for a passport, you give me a photo of Mickey Mouse. I can't verify it. Until one day we sat around and we were thinking, if we had any technology available to us, what would we do? And we said the one thing that verifies itself. What is that? It's your face. I mean, unless this is Game of Thrones, when you can swap out your face is your face. How do we know your face belongs to you? Because your face is on your head, So we kind of we said we looked around and we found readily available technology. We integrated that into our solutions.
Mm.
Where today we have live selfies, and I can't prove this to you, but I am very confident that we have saved many lives um, by making this one change. And I think that kind of lesson for us is, imagine the power that that's available to us to scale our impact if we're willing to look out for available technology that we can leverage to solve real problems.
That's beautiful. I'm getting goosebumps as I hear your story. So heartfelt, Sean, and thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that. I want to hear from Sean first and then Chin Yin on. We've heard so much about this. We are around the end of this conversation, last couple of questions, but what is it? What are some of the steps that are actively taken at Grab to make it a positive, inclusive workplace? Remember, this is a loaded question because bunch of people who may desire to want to crave to work at Grab may be listening to this. So, would love to hear from you on what are some of the practices, what are some of the efforts taken in fostering a positive, inclusive work culture. Sean first, and then Chin Yin, please.
Yeah, I would really just say two things like really quickly. One is, are we really living out our culture? Culture and statements of principle all sound great. People are not looking for what we write. I mean, it's incredibly well written, by the way. People are not looking for that. People are looking for how we live it. And I think if we keep doing that, we can't really go wrong. So that's one. And then the second thing is, this topic hasn't come up for a while now, but if you're talking about being inclusive, I think then the question we need to ask ourselves is, do we have unconscious biases that we need to take note of? And if the answer is no, then we say, okay, let's come back and ask ourselves again later to see if actually there's something, because it's unconscious, right? And I think as long as we're living out our cultures and we're constantly looking out for biases, then we will create the best workplace.
Wonderful.
Love it.
Yeah, I think for us, from an HR angle, is a couple of things, right? We are quite clear that you can't change some inherent beliefs that people have. It's very difficult to change. And therefore, when we say, how do we build a positive and inclusive culture? It starts from hiring the right people. And one thing we have changed was to say the culture interview actually starts at the beginning of the whole interview process rather than right at the end. It's very hard for an HR person to say, okay, this person who looks great on paper just doesn't fit the culture. And the hiring manager will always say, but I needed the person yesterday, so can you just send the offer out, right? So the filtration really needs to happen at the beginning and not right at the end. And that's what we've done. So we look for people who believe in the culture and who behave that way, as well as sign on to the purpose of Grab. I think that's number one. Number two, so having the right people, we need to be able to journey with them and help them understand. So what's the end goal of all this, right? I'm in this great company. I know I'm here to serve the mission, but how do I live my day-to-day life so that I can live well? 4H is one, our 4H principles is one, but there are many other things that we need to cover. That's why we launch what is called the Grab Life January this year. It's basically a little roadmap to help people to say, how do you build both excellence and joy in Grab? We break it down to different mindsets of practices that we should practice individually as well as a team, so that there is a clearer framework in terms of how we work together and how we live together to be able to, maximize the joy and excellence during a journey at Grab.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, we are running short of time, but I would love to offer an opportunity for each of you on making a great elevator pitch. I don't know what was the last time you made an elevator pitch. So I'm going to be a little more flexible and lenient with you all. But there are a bunch of amazing people out there that could bring in a lot of amazing things to your teams. What will it take for Grab to attract all those amazing people? I'm sure you already have a lot more people applying to you all than you can hire or something like that. But it's a two-part, it's a double-sided question. What are you looking for in the ultimate next grabber who wants to join the company? And also, what's in it for them? If you would like to attempt that question. Whoever would like to go first, whoever's feeling more ready, sure, Chin Yin.
I can go first.
That's amazing.
It's probably more my job to be able to have that kind of elevator pitch.
Love it. Go for it.
I've always dreamt of building a company where you really have the smartest people who are rooted to do the right thing for the society and also with hearts of gold. This is exactly where you'll find that combination of heart, humility, honor, and hunger. It's not just us saying it. I look at teams who built, for example, the Grab Care product to be able to make sure that healthcare workers during the pandemic have a way to get to and fro from work easily and without being shunned by drivers. I think, and the team did it within 72 hours, to the work that the Malaysia team with Sean, Adeline, and a lot of people, and they really kickstart the idea of how might we help the segments that are underserved in our partners. And they started looking at the physically impaired people with disabilities, basically, and they started with people who were, hearing impaired. They were not able to drive. They were not able to earn a proper living. And how might we be able to open those doors for them? These are real problems that our teams, our tech teams, our business teams continue to serve and to solve. And wouldn't it be magical to be part of that?
Goosebumps, goosebumps, goosebumps. Also, where do I apply? I have all the 4 H's in me. Come on. Love it. And my culture round interview is already done, by the way.
I'll send you the link.
That's amazing. Sean, we'd love to hear from you what your elevator pitch would sound like.
There's no way I can top that. I mean, I would say that if people want to find a workplace where they work with really brilliant people, there are quite a few places like that. Um, and I don't think we're even that brilliant, Like I think we're striving, but if you want to go to a place where you have good people who genuinely want to do well and do really good, I mean, I honestly can't find many alternatives that offer this combination. Recently, I was talking to Chin Yin, about like how do we measure how much good we do, like in terms of livelihoods we create, and ultimately, it is about growing the business. It sounds really convenient because
Yeah.
how convenient it serves you as well. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. We're not having to choose. We're actually saying that the best way for us to serve more people and create more livelihoods is by doing better, is by growing. And when you eliminate that kind of disconnect in your mind where you kind of have competing priorities, and I think sometimes we call this the double bottom line, it really allows you to just go all in. You
Yeah.
really just put your very best into doing it because you're hitting both of those goals at the same time. This is the place where you can do that.
Wow, 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 wow. This is why I love doing this podcast series with the leaders at Grab. Chin Yin, Sean, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this absolutely beautiful, enlightening, thoughtful, gentle conversation. I'm filled with so many different emotions right now, but I'm also blown away by both of you embodying and talking about all these incredible cultural values at Grab. Thank you for building what you have built at Grab and for creating a different kind of a company or a different kind of tech organization in today's day and age and society and world. Thank you. Truly, deeply appreciate your time and your efforts.
Thank you
Thank
to all the
you.
grabbers as well. They are the ones who are doing all the heavy lifting. So thank you so much for having us.
Amazing. All right. And to you listeners and watchers, feel free to grab this entire series of Grab a Seat podcast where we are chatting up with all the incredible leaders at Grab. This is Ankit signing out along with Chin Yin and Sean. Thank you so much.